Hello and welcome to this, the second of my 10th birthday celebration videos. Not my 10th birthday, although thanks for thinking that. Standard Issue's 10th birthday. I am Hannah, for those who were wondering. Am I holding this mug as a marketing promotion? Am I holding it so that I can't wave my hands around like an air traffic controller, like I did in the first video? You decide. So, yes, here we are. Second interview, also recorded in October 2020, same as my last choice, Megan Phelps Roper. And her and I talked about some pretty serious issues, and that is important. We do lots of serious interviews with lots of people. We talk about lots of really, really worthy, weighty stuff, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But sometimes it's brilliant to talk to someone about something that's actually quite daft. Hence, I introduced to you my interview with Andrew Cotter because daftness and fun is important. And I'm telling you, there's nothing that demonstrated that better in lockdown than Andrew's hijinks with his two very good dogs, Olive and Mabel. And we basically talked for half an hour about how dogs are amazing. They're really stupid, but they are amazing. And I had a lovely time talking to him. He's very funny. And he also talks about something really interesting, which is what happened when sport had no crowds, which I think means that this is a bit of social history. My work here is done. As a result, could you please, sorry, just stop waving your hands around, Hannah. As a result, could you please press subscribe? It would make me well happy. I thank you.
Hi, I'm joined by Andrew Cotter, owner of the internet's most famous dogs, Olive and Mabel, and author of excellent new book, Olive, Mabel and Me. Welcome to Standard Issue, Andrew.
Hello, I was wondering, are they the most famous dogs on the internet? I was thinking the other day, who are the more famous dogs? I think there are various internet sensations in the dog world, like dogs jumping into piles of leaves and things like that, and there must have been a few others, dogs that have been on Britain's Got Talent or something, but they're certainly top 30. I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Now, having read your book, I'm aware that you've received a request for an interview from almost every media organisation on the planet. So thank you for saying yes to this one.
Welcome.
And the second thing that I have to say is I absolutely love this book.
Oh, do you? Are you saying that? Are you saying that as in I'm saying that? Or are you saying that because, well, I tell you what, I love this book, and then you don't actually mean it? Isn't that terrible, Hannah? That's my natural reaction to a cynical, sceptical way of looking at the world. Well, it's very nice. I'm going to take that as you mean it. To say that's very kind of you.
Yeah, you went a bit Donald Trump there, fake news.
Oh no, no, it's just because no, it's not. It's not that. Oh my God, please don't compare me with the Donald.
Yeah, I know. Interview over.
No, exactly. No. The reason I say things like that is because I'm Scottish and slightly we don't do praise at all. So we don't receive it well. We don't give it well. We live in a world free of praise. So if somebody does say something nice, and recently there have been some nice things said about the book, I just got after the sort of Muttley impression.
I agree with you. I'm much like that. I'm like, don't say nice things to me. It's embarrassing for all concerned.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm going to say more nice stuff because I write for a living, and yeah, I am still making an absolute song and dance out of writing a book. And yet you seem to have made it look quite easy. Was it as easy as it looks?
No, it wasn't. But I've nothing to compare it to, I suppose. That's the thing, because, you write as a sports broadcaster. I mean, I write a couple of magazine columns maybe, or here and there, and some newspaper articles once in a blue moon. But writing a book was something entirely different. So I think when you're given a deadline, you just have to get on with it. And then when you're writing about something, I think once I got past the initial stumbling block of thinking, what is this book actually about? And that's what people have asked me. They said, well, I can understand how the videos were a big success, but how does that translate into a book? And you can't directly translate the humour. So what you have to do is just try and think of a different type of humour, observational humour about owning dogs, etc., whatever it is. And then once I worked out the structure of the book and that you're actually just writing about life, because dogs, if you own dogs or no dogs, they are everywhere with you and through every aspect of life, then you realise you're writing about life, so you just do that. Once I worked that out, then it was okay.
I think you've really sort of tapped into that thing that we do with our pets, which is we love them unconditionally, but also we rip the mickey out of them the whole time. Like, look at this beautiful idiot.
Yeah.
That idea of look.
That's what they are.
When Joan chews her way through the side of a box of food to get to it, I'm like, you are so annoying. And yet, if you didn't do this, I don't know that I'd like you as much as I do.
And I like the way you've got a perceived human name for your cat as well. Joan is a cat, yes?
Yeah, Joan is a cat. I have two. They're called, like Oliver and Mabel, they have old lady names. They're called Peggy and Joan.
Yeah, exactly. That's tremendous. So we humiliate them a little bit with those names as well. They probably
exactly
think,
that.
Joan, stop eating the box, Joan. So they're lovable idiots, dogs in particular. Cats aren't so much lovable idiots because I think they're quite clever, or at least they say that they are, but they lie about a lot of stuff, cats. So dogs are largely, except for the really intelligent ones like border collies, they are lovable idiots. And you can look at them and go, you are a moron. And you say with all the affection in the world, and they look back up at you just wagging their tail, doing nothing to disabuse you of the notion that they are a moron. We need that. We need silliness. Especially at the moment, everything's crap, isn't it? It's just so we need just some innocent silliness that dogs provide. Just hopeless, gormless wagging of tails and lolling of tongues and just looking at you and loving you. So that's what we need just now.
My uncle used to have a pub, and he had a huge, I can't remember what they're called, the Dulux dogs.
No, Old English sheepdogs.
Old English sheepdog. It was enormous, and they had to replace their back door because their back door initially was all glass, and he just kept trying to walk through it, like time and time again, just smashing into the back.
But in his defence as an Old English sheepdog, he might actually not have seen, bearing in mind that they had fringes which come straight down. So he's just walking through. So it's nothing to do with stupidity. It's just I genuinely couldn't see it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
They're big dogs, the Old English sheepdogs.
Yeah, massive. Yeah. In fact, actually, most of my family has dogs. I would love one, but I live in a flat and I work weird hours, and it's just there's never been a good time.
No.
I was thinking maybe retirement will be my time.
Yeah, and that's it. Cats, they're pretty self-sufficient. I mean, actually, if they go out to work in the morning and they come back and they settle down there, they do what they want to do. As long as the reason I don't have a cat is because I would be worried about cats and the fact that people say, well, you just have a cat flap, and they go out and they go out and they wander onto a road. So they profess to be intelligent. They're not that intelligent. They'll get run over, and it's just very, very sad. So I'd just be worrying about them all the time.
Well, they're not happy at the moment because we're into the 2-week period that seems to be fireworks night now because it stretches.
Listen, when I was young, I liked fireworks and all their glorious whiz-bang, colourful noises as much as anybody else. But what? It just goes on for weeks. Just people, fireworks. Just come on now. But that's me showing my massive killjoy side. But I don't think they should be allowed for the length of time they're allowed.
I agree. Now, you went on about my cats having a job there. Obviously, they contribute nothing.
Nothing.
You actually thank Oliver and Mabel for contributing both everything and nothing to your book.
Yeah.
Which probably never a truer word, because that's what pets do. They give us everything and nothing at the same time. I mean, 2020 was the year to own a pet, really, wasn't it?
And lots of people have taken on dogs during this time, and I can understand it because people have realised the value of dogs, the value of pets during all this. Because I was wondering about this the other day. If a sort of alien stopped by on the way to wherever they're going, stopped in at Earth. First of all, they'd say, "Well, what are you doing here? You're messing this up." But also, they would then say, "What is this thing you call pet?" Because I was thinking, why do we have pets? And we try and explain to them, well, they just sort of wander around and they don't really do much at all. But then they do everything because they're companionship. They're a massive barrier against loneliness. They prevent it in everything they do. And again, they don't do much, but they just sort of wander around and you talk to them and you'll have little conversations with them. But just that thing of having a presence, a living, breathing presence in the house. You might be living in your own, you might be in a family, but still you can feel loneliness, especially this year because of everything that's happening. We all feel disconnected from the rest of the human race. And even for those of us who are miserable buggers like me, we all need connection with other people, getting together now and again. And so if you don't have that, Zoom calls don't do it. Listening to podcasts, even ones as good as this, they don't quite do it. So it's all about just feeling that companionship. And that's what I'd say to the alien, who's probably buggered off by this point. You're like, all right, mate, with your sermon, your human sermon about stuff. I would say that's what animals, and that's what dogs certainly give you, just companionship.
Now, what happened when you and Olive and Mabel became the toast of Twitter is laid out in quite a lot of detail in your book. And it's really interesting because although I've read a lot of stuff about people caught in negative Twitter storms, I've never really seen what happened from the positive side.
Yeah.
And I was really interested to learn that even though you're really savvy about the media and Twitter and mental health, it was still quite a stressful experience for you.
And I say that with full awareness that, it's very much it's not even a first world problem, being at the centre of a positive virus. It's beyond first world. It's first world into a strange sort of, I don't know, added on bit of first world problem of being at the centre of a positive viral video. But there's always with something that is enormous, and it was enormous. I mean, the first 2 videos in particular just went ballistic, and and that's before we got to Mabel standing in a pond or doing the Zoom video, which were hugely popular as well. They all just brought such a reaction, and then when you see that reaction coming in, and again, I had an email address on my Twitter account. So we're on a Zoom call. I should explain for the listeners, we're on a Zoom call. We're in vision, and I can just see a cat's backside going across in front of you as an important critique of what I'm saying at the moment. Is that Joan?
It is Joan.
Joan,
the perpetual interrupter. She's gone.
Joan's gone. See, Joan just she had a very cat moment there of other people are doing things that I don't approve of, so I'm just going to stroll across there and put them off. So yeah, you get this reaction again. I had an email address on my Twitter account, which was probably a mistake, but then again, I didn't know something was going to go viral. So I got emails coming in, messages coming in on Twitter. I mean, and when I say it's the thousands, that's not exaggerating. They were coming in the thousands, and again, they were all positive for a start, which is strange on Twitter. But quite often they're asking for stuff, just to could you do a commentary on this for me, or would you like to be associated with this brand? Could you do this ad? Could you do? And people say, well, what's the problem with that? But the problem is that when someone says something nice to you, and I've said that I don't know how to deal with it, but I would always want to respond to that person saying something nice. So, and you can't, you just haven't got the time to do it. So you pick a few and you respond to them, and then you put out a blanket tweet saying, listen, thank you for all the messages. But then also people are sending you stories about their situations that they're in at the time, and they're saying, look, this made me laugh, I'm just having a crap time. And you saw the people who are really sad at the moment and stressed at the moment, and it's just so enormous that it seems to be, and it's coming into your inbox, and you realise just how stressed and rather down so many people are at the moment for various and fairly obvious reasons, and then at the same time, you want to be able to help them, but you can't. So even though they're saying nice things as well about the video, that's the good part of it, but then you feel bad because you're taking on a bit of the emotions that they feel as well. It's just I would say that that's just hopefully a normal reaction from anybody who is reasonably empathetic. If you see somebody sad and they're telling you that they're sad and that they've had a relative who's ill or has died, or could you do this message for my daughter or mother, whoever it is who's struggling, and then of course you try and do them, but all the time you're taking on a little bit of those problems and issues as well. So again, absolutely beyond first world problem, and I'm not moaning at all, because the whole thing has been fascinating and also enjoyable at times, but it's certainly reasonably hard to deal with. And to your point there, I can't imagine what it must be like to be at the centre of a negative viral video thing, which would just be beyond awful.
That's what my next question is. Has it altered your perception of fame and fandom, particularly in sport, when it can be so extremely toxic? Very much so. And I've not before this, I wasn't famous, but I had some sort of recognition. But then you look at really famous people, and I've obviously dealt with quite a few of them and interviewing them or doing events with them, so being with them, and then you see sometimes you would have seen them, just say, we just have to keep walking to avoid this group of autograph hunters, and you kind of go, oh, come on, sign the thing. But then you realise that if you're at a certain level, and I'm not talking about me with the dogs, but if you're at a certain level of fame in real life, it must be so claustrophobic, and you just can't escape from it. And I was going to say that some of them might have brought it upon themselves, and I know, but they haven't. They most of them are people who've just achieved something through a talent. And the fame is ancillary product, and you don't necessarily want it. I look at people who want to be famous,
They want to be famous for being famous. They think that must be the greatest thing in the world. Can't imagine that. Well, when I was young, we were. I don't know if you remember Isla St. Clair, who was.
I do.
Yeah, Larry Grayson's sidekick on the Generation Game, and she did many other television programs. And she, there was a time in the late 70s, so we knew her very well, and I'd taken for a walk with her in the late 70s, and it was just incredible. You'd see all these people just descending on her, looking at her, pointing, and I couldn't understand because I was very, very young at the time, and she was always smiling, etc. But then she would say, and I spoke to her recently about it as well, and she said, look, you've got to try and shut it all out because it's very, very difficult to cope with. And can you imagine that kind of fame, which was huge when the Generation Game was getting 20 million people? Imagine that in social media times as well, because then it never shuts off unless you decide yourself, deactivate Twitter, never look at social media.
I went to the Hay Festival with Sarah Millican about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been out in public with her, but I think what was exacerbated was that people knew that she was on.
Yeah.
And because we were at the Hay Festival, and we had to walk from the green room to the entrance of the stage, which was probably about 300 yards.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, I was fucked off with the amount of people that stopped and talked to us, and it was nothing to do with me. It was just like, I don't know how people cope with that.
Yes. Well, I mean,
and it's all goodwill.
Of course it is. And for each person that comes forward, it is their one moment with that famous person. So you totally understand it. It's not, and that's why, you feel bad when you're not responding to messages on Twitter, because that one person has contacted you. They don't know that 5,000 other people have contacted you as well. I mean, they might be able to see that kind of level of traffic coming across. So you kind of feel bad about it. I mean, I've been at Wimbledon, and you're trying to get through a crowd with John McEnroe, and he'd just pull the baseball cap down and just go. Just because if you stop for one, that's it. You're never going to move again. So, yeah, it's the whole thing has been a massive eye opener, because as a commentator, a sports commentator, you're quite anonymous. You're a voice over some sporting events. People don't know what you look like, and so you just get on with your job, and you might be doing big events, but you're not recognizable as the person of that big event. So you're known, but you're certainly not famous. So it's this thing has been very, very. I mean, to be honest, Olive and Mabel get recognised all the time out on walks now. Genuinely, it's so odd. It's just, and you can see people doing double takes. Is that Olive and Mabel? And sometimes I'll be calling one of them to get them out of various unpleasant things that they're doing, and then people walking by will realise that's Mabel, and they'll come running over, and they're wanting photos with them. So, but they take it quite well, Olive and Mabel. So they're fairly level.
Well, Mabel likes a stroke, doesn't she?
She really does. She's just she would stop for the crowd at Wimbledon. She would just stop it, and she would put a sign up saying, "I'm here. Come and see me now."
Sticking with the world of sport, I'm interested to know how you feel the absence of sport has contributed to this pretty febrile atmosphere we're all living under. Because sport's absolutely not my area of expertise, so feel free to correct me. But I grew up just outside of Milton Keynes, and I always had the theory that the reason there was always trouble in the town centre on a Saturday night was the absence of a football club.
Yeah.
They have a football club now, but they didn't when I was younger. And that maybe, if people, men especially, had a chance to chant and shout and be part of a community, that they wouldn't necessarily get involved in a fight in a taxi rank at 2 a.m.
Well, I think there's certainly an element of truth in that. I mean, I think certain people would just be looking for that trouble, no matter if there's football on or not. But it is certainly an outlet of not frustration, just an outlet, just a chance to let off steam on a Saturday. It's the sort of old cliche of people working Monday to Friday, then Saturday it's just a release, and it's a time to forget jobs that might be a bit of a drudge and things that they don't enjoy, and people might not be enjoying their home life. Domestic situations may be difficult for whatever reason, and then you escape into sport for however long it might be. And for the vast majority of the population, that's football. For others, it might be rugby, it might be playing cricket or golf or whatever it might be. So sports sometimes gets looked down upon as a sort of lower art form, but it's the same. It's much the same as escaping into a good play or a great film or a good book. It's the same thing. It's just at different levels, perhaps of I don't know, a different. I don't even want to separate it by. You certainly don't want to separate it by like class or whatever it might be, everybody needs an escape into something. And so whatever art form it is, football and sport is certainly part of that. And that's why everyone is so determined now, certainly at a governmental level and all the sports governing bodies, to make sport happen. And some people will be saying, why are we working so hard to make football happen? Because if we didn't have things like football, is most importantly of all, if we didn't have that, lockdown, second lockdown, going into winter would be so very, very difficult, because we need these, divertissement, these escapes. That's what everything, and a bit of hope. Exactly, it's a bit of
hope that you win, even if it's just for
well, exactly, and that's because you do have that. That's sport brings you sort of joy and hope and expectation, perhaps deflation at the end of it, but it gives you something. It gives you some sort of adrenaline, some sort of, I don't know what the hit is, the dopamine hit or whatever it might be. I don't know, but it gives you something. And, I'm well aware that sport is not the be all and end all, and some people aren't interested in it at all. But for a huge amount of people, they are. Whether it's watching it or playing it, and physical activity, I think, is even more important. But so I hope that it continues. I would say that the way it's going on at the moment, sport is rather soulless and rather empty, but it's happening at least as a sort of televisual or radio product for people to enjoy. But without spectators, it's half the thing it used to be, but it's still something until we get to the other side of this, and then it can all come back with all guns blazing.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because it's kind of an experiment that wouldn't have happened otherwise, in that what role the crowd does play in sport.
No, it's interactive.
If we look at like Super Saturday in 2012, when Greg Rutherford did one really long jump, and it was when the crowd was going mental for Jessica Ennis. So it kind of becomes interactive.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't jump. Well, he was retired now, but he was a very regular jumper of good distances. But he wouldn't have. I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't have won that gold medal if it hadn't been in London, because you feed off the crowd. You absolutely. Yeah. It's a sort of symbiotic relationship, in the crowd. You give them something and they give you something in return in the show that they put on. So it really is interactive. And when, I've done a couple of commentaries since, I've done 4 days work since the beginning of March. But on those days, it's been at empty stadiums, or it's been commentating off tube, off a monitor in Salford or wherever it might be. And it really is an empty experience compared to normal sports commentary. But again, it'll come back and we'll appreciate it even more when it does.
Well, fingers crossed. Now, I realise counterfactuals aren't particularly useful for anyone, but I am interested in one thing. So I was one of the 70,000 people who took part in the COVID social study.
Right.
And later, it looked at the nation's mental health in lockdown. And later, when I interviewed one of the specialists involved, I said to her, do people like me, people who go, mustn't grumble, just get on with it, do we skew figures because we say, I'm all right?
Yeah.
And she pointed out to me that was, in fact, just a coping mechanism, the same as everyone else. So I'd like to know, is there an alternative history where Andrew Cotter spends lockdown in his pants watching Netflix?
Well,
or are you just a man that needed to do something?
I kind of do both those things. No, I don't. It's not Netflix. No, it's... it's very interesting what you say there, because I would love to know the number of people. Actually, I don't think I would love to know the number of people, because it would be shocking and rather dispiriting. But the amount of people who are doing as you are doing and I'm doing, and saying, "Yep, fine, I'm fine," and mustn't grumble, because relatively speaking, we mustn't grumble. But that doesn't mean that sadness and real melancholy and stress is quite close to the surface quite a lot of the time. I find myself, and we all do, some days you feel okay, and then you very much don't, and it comes to the surface. And again, that is said absolutely with the awareness of my situation being incredibly fortunate compared to lots of people. But as so many people will know, that's not a factor when it comes to mental health at all.
No, and it's not in comparison better than it was for you 6 months ago. So it's still worse, or certainly in my case, it was worse to some degree.
And also, it's not just one's own situation. Again, you look at everybody and you get so sad about it all, and you get so sad about the situation in the world at large, and all you can do is hope with a little Labrador shake of the head and wag of the tail to be, a little bit happier and think that things will be good in the future. And again, I don't want to bring something as serious as mental health down to something as trite as trivial as dogs, but they're not trivial because they really are so important to people in coping with mental health issues. It's just that I would like, I try and give the impression that, that, hey, we're all going to get through this. And I do think that we are going to get through this and things will be fine. That's the way the human species, I was going to say evolves. It seems like we're devolving at the moment. But the way the human species moves is it is one of progress, but it's through peaks and troughs. And we're certainly in a trough at the moment for whatever reason, but it will be brighter and better on the other side. And so through this trough, you just have to try and take some enjoyment from whatever it might be. And that's why I enjoyed, not just for my own mental sanity, doing the dog videos, but I really did enjoy messages coming in saying, look, for 60 seconds, for 90 seconds, I laughed at or with your dogs in this video, and it meant a great deal. And that's when I found myself most emotional, to be honest, seeing those messages coming in, because I have been, or painted myself as quite a cynical, cold person in the past, but I've been absolutely moved by the reaction to them, because these silly dogs and the strange, silly videos that I've made have made, in a small, small way, a bit of a difference.
Absolutely. I was listening to a podcast the other day, a podcast that's made in America, and one of the presenters described something as being the best thing that happened in lockdown. And then she said, no, wait a minute, I'm wrong. The best thing that happened in lockdown was that Scottish guy. She didn't know what your name was, which was brilliant. That Scottish guy who made the Olive and Mabel videos.
Yeah.
So they are everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Well, yeah. I mean, it has been incredible, the reaction, seeing, especially across the Atlantic. I mean, they do love their dogs in America. They get some things wrong, but they do love their dogs. And Canada as well. I mean, that might be a Ryan Reynolds thing, I'm not sure. But just say, I think the universal language of dogs, people just appreciate the silliness of dogs, because they are pretty silly creatures. But, we've all needed a bit of that.
A lot of my friends have dogs. A lot of my family have dogs, but I haven't seen anybody. And the other day I was on a Skype call with a friend of mine, and I said, please put him on the call. And he was like, he won't see you. And I said, no, but I'll see him.
Yeah.
See his stupid little face
Exactly.
before he gets bored and runs away and does something else.
That's it. And we can say that about dogs, his stupid little face. And we mean it again with such affection.
He is a hooligan, that dog.
Yeah.
If he was a person, I wouldn't like him.
No.
But yeah, it's so easy to feel when he's got a lovely face.
But also, you say some dogs are, like, say, hooligans and a bit mad, but they're not bad, because they don't know good or bad. They don't know. They operate in a totally amoral sphere. It's just what they want. I want this, so I'm going to complain until I get it, or I want this, so I'm just going to take it. But there's nothing done behind the back. There's no, as I say, this Machiavellian maneuvering or whatever we see in the human world. It's just about, I'm fairly upfront about this. I'm going to be honest. I want that, and I want you to give it to me. So hooligans they may be, but they're pretty honest about it all.
There's a fact in your book that I keep coming back to. And that's
Probably made up. So let's find out.
Well, and that's the fact that 47 is a pivotal age for many people. It's the age at which our lives start to shrink or expand or go in different directions.
Oh God, but we're cheating everyone up now, aren't we?
Yeah. You are 47. I am 47 in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
And although my life has actually shrunk quite a lot this year, you've given me hope that can also expand. So it might be a bit too soon for you to tell, but do you know what the next couple of months is going to hold? Please write another book.
Well, the next couple of months, there's actually sport coming back, and I'm going to be doing hopefully lots of rugby commentary. But again, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with the situation, whether it tightens up. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep sport going. So there might be some sports commentary. The most interesting thing, which I don't know if it'll happen or not, and again, this is where I'm wary of a Twitter backlash, but everything is being done absolutely properly about it, is that Olive, Mabel and me are going to be appearing at the London Palladium, as you do, on the 24th of November. Now, there's a couple of...
my birthday.
Is it? Well, that's what we're doing it for, because we're coming along for Hannah's birthday. No, it's, in this, when we haven't been able to do touring or anything like that, suddenly this company said, we did an appearance at the Cheltenham Literary Festival, and they had 100 people in this lovely theatre, the Everyman Theatre in Cheltenham. And it went down quite well. And then they said, well, could we do this on a sort of slightly bigger scale? because the Palladium is doing stuff. I mean, certain theatres are doing things under very tight controls. So I don't know how many it seats the Palladium, 3,000 or whatever, and they'll allow 700 in. So there's enough space between everybody, and then it's very staggered, so people don't come in one, they come in bits and pieces. But again, it's, people will be looking and going, oh God, really, under all this is going on, and you're doing a stage show. I mean, all I can take is the assurances from people that it will be properly done. And all I do is exist at home. And so I'll just go from home, drive down in a car, go to the Palladium and back. But you have to be so aware of being very, very careful about everything at the moment, and also what it looks like. But if it does go ahead, the idea that we would be on the stage at the London Palladium, I mean, it's bizarre and ridiculous. I can't lie. I'm very excited about it, just to be on stage at the London Palladium. I mean, I think that is where, what dogs have appeared at the London Palladium? Spit the Dog and Bob Carolgees.
Yeah.
One of the dogs in, is that where they have the Britain's Got Talent editions? I think it might be. So maybe some of the dancing dogs on that. Anyway, we're following a long line of great dogs to appear on the stage.
It's interesting about ventriloquism because it's actually kind of similar to what you do, as in you do all the work and they just sit there and look brilliant.
Give them a voice that we think they're, so you look at Olive and Mabel and they may be, I don't know what they're thinking. They're thinking basic want thoughts. But we, projecting our own thoughts onto them is that anthropomorphic sort of idea that's made a huge career for lots of people, from Disney to whoever it might be. It's giving animals human traits that probably don't exist, or certainly don't exist, but we like to welcome them into the human world. And that's why I enjoyed doing the Zoom meeting or the online dating or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Putting Olive and Mabel in those situations, it's just fun.
It is. I have one more question, and it's back to Olive and Mabel, the real stars of the show, obviously. I was wondering, you were talking about going back to work, and I've got a lot of friends with dogs who are pretty worried about what's going to happen when they go back to work, because, it's been brilliant for dogs. They've had people around them all the time. Have you got any tips on how maybe to leave dogs?
I think you just have to gradually build up the amount of time you leave the house for, so that it's not suddenly you've been home all the time and then you go away for, a day and come back. Because at the moment, if I go away for, 30 seconds and come back, Olive is the one you can see the difference in, because Mabel's always been clingy and desperate and just happy to see me after 2 seconds. But Olive is definitely behaving differently. Not massively, but just it's clear to see that she is much happier when I'm around than when I'm not. So you just have to kind of stagger it. But I think we're all being institutionalized. I'm slightly worried about how we're all going to get back out there as well, because we've become so just used to this way of operating, of being in our own little cocoon, but going out into the world. Can you imagine hugging somebody on a bus? I mean, I used to do that regularly. So, just grab people and hug them on a bus before authorities came along. But can you? So many of the things that we used to do that seem so normal, about being in a pub or a restaurant on a sort of steamy, wet winter's night, and you'll come in. It just seems it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people. And I was mildly germophobic before all this, but I think I'll be okay. But I think some people are going to be really struggling with getting back out there and coping with being back out there.
Absolutely. I found the other day I had to drive somewhere, and it's the first time I'd driven for more than about an hour and a half in 9 months. And it seemed exhausting. And yet I was a person who would drive to Wales to interview someone and then drive back again. Yeah. And the idea of being in...
But where do you live? If you live in Shrewsbury, that's not...
I live in Cambridge, so it's a pretty... That's
all the way from Chepstow to... No, I went from Bristol. Anyway, yes, but it's I remember getting in my car for the first time after proper lockdown, going out, and it felt weird. There's no doubt about it. It just felt, I don't know, I've never travelled so far in my life. I've gone 60 miles up the motorway, but it's I think it's going to be mentally quite difficult for a lot of people, and it will be a little bit like dogs. Try and stagger it back into, it's not full on, get out there now, everything's great, we've got a vaccine. People are going to have to just sort of do it by steps, getting back into what we used to call normal life.
Thank you so much for this, Andrew. Olive, Mabel and me, all good bookshops, and I've heard an audiobook is possibly coming.
It is on the way. It'll be out at the end of November. I'm recording it at the moment in this very room. So it's coming soon.
Thanks again, Andrew. This has been brilliant.
Sorry, do you want me to say thank you there as well?
Yes, that
sorry. Exactly. Just ignore you. Sorry, I thought you were going to get a jingle or something. Yeah, exactly.